When I close my eyes and think back to my younger days, I remember a life without worries. Everything felt light, almost like a dream I didn't want to wake up from. My father's wealth was the shield that protected me from reality, and because of it, I believed life was simple. I didn't study much, I didn't work, I had no reason to. Whatever I desired was placed before me as if the world itself was made for my comfort. If I saw something nice, I would turn to my father and say softly, "Papa, can I have this?" He would smile with pride and answer, "Of course, my child. You should never be without what you love." My friends, however, often shook their heads. "You should think about tomorrow," they warned me. "Nothing lasts forever. Plan for the future." But I only laughed. Why should I work? Why should I worry? My father has money, that is more than enough. Every morning, I woke up late, the sunlight already high in the sky, and breakfast arrived at my bedside like magic. Sometimes I stretched lazily and whispered to myself, "This is the life everyone dreams of." I spent hours watching TV, or I went out with friends. We dined at the finest restaurants, laughed over expensive dishes, wore the most fashionable clothes, and drove fast cars that made us feel untouchable. Life was easy, life was fun, and I was certain it would always remain so. Money never crossed my mind. Work never entered my thoughts. If I wanted to travel, I packed my bags and said, "Papa, I feel like seeing the world," and he would smile warmly, "Go, explore, enjoy." If new shoes caught my eye, they were mine. When the latest phone appeared in stores, it was in my hands the very next day. Everything seemed endless, a never-ending river of comfort and joy. Would you like me to also end this version with a hint of foreshadowing, showing that life won't stay this way forever, or should it stay purely in the tone of nostalgic luxury? I had the best life. My father paid for everything. I never thought about how hard he worked. I never asked him about his business. All I cared about was enjoying myself. I only thought about today, never about tomorrow. One evening, my father called me. His face was serious. "Sit down, son. We need to talk." I smiled, trying to lighten the mood. "Yes, Father?" But his expression didn't change. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't joking. A nervous feeling stirred in me, though I didn't know why. My father had always been kind. He had never refused me anything. But that day felt different. He took a deep breath, then looked me straight in the eye. "You are not a child anymore. You must think about your future." I laughed lightly. "Father, I already have everything I need." He shook his head. "No, my son. You have everything because I work hard. But life is not always easy. One day, things may change." I didn't understand him. I thought he was worrying for nothing. "Don't worry, Father. Nothing will change," I said with a smile. But he didn't smile back. He stared at me for a long moment before replying softly, "We will see." I left the room, brushing off his words. I went out with friends, laughing and spending money, never realizing my life was about to take a turn. The next morning, I woke up late as usual. I stretched, picked up my phone, and saw messages from my friends. They wanted to go out. Smiling, I got ready, wearing my best clothes, spraying expensive perfume, and walking downstairs. But in the living room, my father was waiting. His face was as serious as the day before. "Sit down," he ordered. I sighed. "Father, I have plans today." He didn't care. His eyes were fixed on me. "You are not a boy anymore. You must learn about life." I rolled my eyes. "Father, I already know about life." He shook his head firmly. "No, you don't." Then his tone shifted. "Come with me." Confused, I followed him outside. He walked to his car. I climbed in silently, still wondering what he was planning. He didn't say a word as he drove. That morning, the city looked different. I noticed people walking quickly, workers cleaning the streets, men selling food on the roadside. Things I had never paid attention to before suddenly stood out. After some time, my father stopped the car in a part of the city I had never seen. The buildings were old, the streets unclean, the people tired. My father pointed to a man selling fruit. "Look at him," he said. "He wakes up at dawn. He works all day. He never rests. He never complains. He works only to feed his family." I stayed silent. Then he took me to a small shop where an old woman was sewing clothes. "She has worked for 40 years, he said. "She doesn't earn much, but every day she works hard. That is her life." I stared at her. Her hands were tired, her face lined with age, but still she worked. She didn't stop. My father turned to me. "Do you see now? Life is not easy for everyone. Some people fight every single day just to survive. And you, my son, you have never worked even a single day." Something inside me shifted. I wanted to speak, but no words came. For the first time in my life, I felt small. I felt different. We got back into the car. My father didn't speak. He just drove. I sat quietly, lost in thought. The image of the fruit seller, the old woman sewing clothes, they stayed with me. I had never thought about people like them. I had never thought about work. My life had been too easy. But now, something in me had changed. I never understood why, but after driving for some time, my father stopped the car again. This time, we were in front of a tall glass building, his office. I had been there before, but only for a few minutes whenever I needed money. I never stayed long. My father got out. "Come," he said firmly. I followed him inside. The office was full of movement, people walking quickly, phones ringing, papers stacked everywhere. My father led me to his own office, sat down, and looked at me seriously. "Do you know what I do every day?" he asked. I shrugged. "You work." He nodded. "Yes. But do you know how hard I work?" I stayed silent. He continued, his voice steady. "I wake up early. I make decisions that affect many lives. I solve problems, I carry this company on my shoulders, and I do all of this for you." I looked around. For the first time, I noticed the workers closely. Some were buried in reports, others on calls, their faces tense, tired, stressed. Until that moment, I had only seen the money my father gave me, never the effort behind it. A strange feeling grew inside me, guilt. Then my father handed me a small notebook. "From tomorrow, you will work here." I laughed nervously. "Me? Work?" But he wasn't laughing. "Yes. You will start from the bottom. You will learn. I was shocked. But I don't need to work. He shook his head slowly. You do. Because one day, I will not be here. And then what will you do? I froze. I had never imagined life without him. I had never thought about the future. I had only lived for comfort. But now, I had no choice. My father had decided tomorrow my life would change. The next morning, I woke up early. It felt strange. I was used to sleeping late. I dressed quickly and went downstairs. My father was waiting. He handed me a small bag. Your lunch, he said. I looked at him in surprise. Lunch? Can't I eat at a restaurant? He shook his head. Workers bring their own lunch. Today, you are a worker. We drove to his office. But this time, he didn't take me to his big office. Instead, he led me to a small crowded room filled with desks. People typed on computers, barely looking up. A man in glasses approached us. This is Mr. William, my father said. You'll work under him. Then he left. Mr. William's face was serious. Come with me, he said briskly. I hurried after him. He pointed to a small desk and handed me a huge stack of papers. Check the numbers. Find mistakes. Mark them. And work fast. I stared at the pile. All of these? He nodded without hesitation. Yes. All of them. I sat down and started. At first, it seemed simple, but after an hour my head throbbed, the numbers blurred, and my eyes ached. I wanted to stop, but everyone else around me kept working silently, without rest. This was nothing like my old life. This was work. By lunchtime, I was exhausted. I opened my bag. The food was plain, nothing fancy, no expensive drinks. I ate quietly, watching the others. They ate quickly, barely talking, then went right back to work. No long breaks. No laughter. Just work. I missed my freedom. I missed the ease of my old life. But at the same time, I felt something new, respect. Respect for these people who worked so hard every single day. And now, I was one of them. The afternoon dragged on. My back ached, my hands were tired, but I kept working. Mr. William came to my desk, checked my papers, and frowned. Mistakes. Do it again. I sighed, wanting to argue. But I didn't. I just nodded and started over. When the day finally ended, I was drained. But inside, something had shifted. For the first time, I understood how hard people worked. For the first time, I realized money wasn't easy. As I walked out, I saw my father waiting. He didn't ask how my day was. He only gave me a small smile. For the first time, I smiled back, not because life was easy, but because I had earned it. The next day, I woke up sore and tired. Every muscle begged me to stay in bed. But I couldn't. I had work. I dressed and went downstairs. My father glanced at me, nodded once, and said simply, "Good." Just one word, but it felt like pride. At the office, Mr. William greeted me. "You were slow yesterday. Today, work faster." I wanted to protest, but I didn't. I sat down and began. My head still hurt, my back still ached, but I worked. By noon, I finished. Mr. William checked and found fewer mistakes. Better, he said. Just one word, but it felt better than any expensive gift. It felt real. At lunch, I sat with the other workers. They talked about their families, their struggles, their lives. They laughed, they ate quickly, and went back to work. I listened silently. I had never thought about people like them before. Now, I was sitting among them. The afternoon was tough. Mr. William gave me more papers. Let's see if you can handle this. I wanted to groan, but instead I nodded and focused. Hours passed. My back hurt, my hands trembled, but I kept going. I wanted to prove to him, to my father, and to myself that I could do this. When the day ended, Mr. William looked at me and said, "Not bad." Just 2 words. But they meant everything. Outside, my father was waiting. "Tired?" he asked. I nodded. He smiled. "Good." Now I understood. I understood why he had done this. And for the first time, I didn't want to escape work. I wanted to learn. Days passed, then weeks, then months. Every day was hard, but slowly I improved. Fewer mistakes, faster work. Mr. Williams still didn't smile, but sometimes he said, "Good job." And those words felt more valuable than anything money had ever bought me. I began to see money differently. Before, I only spent it. Now, I saw how hard it was to earn. I watched my father work, his decisions, his responsibilities, his pressure. I never respected it before. But now I did. He wasn't just a man with money, he was a man who had built something with his own hands. One evening, my father called me into his office. He looked at me for a long time. Then he said, "You have changed." I stayed quiet. At first, you were lazy. You didn't care about work. But now you understand. He was right. I nodded. I wasn't the same person anymore. Then he surprised me. He pulled out a small key and handed it to me. "This is your office." I froze. "My office?" He nodded. "You are ready for more responsibility. You have worked hard. Now it's time for the next step." I held the key in my hand. It was small, but it felt heavy. It wasn't just a key, it was trust. The next day, I moved into my office. It was small, but it was mine. My own desk. My own work. I wasn't just a worker anymore, I was learning to lead. It wasn't easy. I made mistakes. I had tough days. But I didn't give up. I kept going. I wanted to be like my father. I wanted to build something of my own. Looking back, I laugh at who I once was. I thought life was easy. I thought money was simple. But I was wrong. Life is work. Life is effort. Life is building with your own hands. My father taught me that. And now, I am ready for the future, not because I have money, but because I have learned how to earn it.